I laughed at my husband when the paternity test proved our baby was his. 5 weeks ago, I gave birth to our daughter Emma, and she came out with blonde hair and pale blue eyes. Both my husband Jake and I have brown hair and brown eyes, so when the nurses first handed her to me, I was a little surprised by how light she looked. But I knew from reading baby books that newborns often have lighter hair and eyes that get darker as they grow. My mom even told me I was born with blonde hair that turned brown by age 2. I thought it was pretty normal and didn't think much of it. Jake had a completely different reaction. The second he saw Emma, his face went white and he started pacing around the hospital room. He kept staring at her and then at me with this suspicious look. Finally, he said, "She doesn't look like either of us. Are you sure she's mine?" I couldn't believe he was even asking that question. I tried explaining that babies change color all the time and that hair and eye color develop over months, but Jake wasn't hearing any of it. He kept saying something was wrong and that this didn't make sense. The whole drive home from the hospital was tense. Jake barely spoke to me and wouldn't even hold Emma. When we got to our house, he announced that he wanted a paternity test and that if I refused, he'd file for divorce immediately. I was exhausted, emotional, and dealing with a newborn, but he gave me no choice. Then he dropped the real bomb. He said he was going to stay at his parents' house until we got the results back because he needed space to think. So there I was, 5 days postpartum, dealing with a crying baby all by myself while my husband was across town, questioning whether she was even his. His mom called me 2 days later and made everything worse. She said if the test showed Jake wasn't the father, she'd make sure I got nothing in the divorce. She used the phrase "taken to the cleaners" and said their family lawyer would destroy me in court. I was crying so hard I could barely respond. For 3 weeks, I was basically a single mom. My sister came to stay with me because I couldn't handle everything alone. Jake would text occasionally asking how the baby was, but he wouldn't visit. He missed her first smile, her first real sleep through the night, everything. The test results finally came back yesterday. Jake showed up at our door looking nervous and sat next to me on the couch. We opened the envelope together and read that he was definitely Emma's father with 99.9% certainty. Jake's face went through about 5 different emotions. First shock, then confusion, then this mortified look like he'd just realized he'd made a huge mistake. His eyes went wide and his mouth hung open as he stared at the paper. That's when I lost it. After 3 weeks of him abandoning me with our newborn, after his mother threatening to ruin me, after him basically calling me a cheater, I looked at his shocked face and said, "I told you so." Then I started laughing. Not because I was happy, but because the whole situation was so ridiculous. This man had put me through hell for 3 weeks over something I tried to explain from day one. Jake immediately got mad and started yelling about how I was being cruel and rubbing it in his face. My sister came downstairs when she heard the shouting and Jake shut up real quick. Then he grabbed his jacket and said he was going back to his parents' house to clear his head. Again, even after being proven wrong, he was still leaving. 2 hours later, his mom called screaming at me for laughing at her son. She said I was kicking him while he was down and being heartless. This morning, I woke up to 3 nasty texts from her saying the same thing. I can't believe they're still trying to make me the bad guy when Jake spent 3 weeks treating me like a cheater over our perfectly normal baby.